Let's see, travel to Medora now if you plan to head to Medora this weekend. Here are a few things that you might want to know to help limit some traffic congestion. Of course, the Theodore Roosevelt Medora Foundation will be offering shuttle service now for people to take, which will travel from Freiburg to various locations throughout Medora. Now, the service will also drop visitors off at Chimney Park Festival Field, and people will be able to park their vehicles in the Freiburg parking lot. In order to avoid some of the heavy traffic that's expected over the July 4th holiday, the Freiburg parking lot is located just off I-94 at exit 36. Shuttles will travel every 30 minutes, while shuttles around Medora, they're going to run every 15 minutes. Well, let's go over some library facts. The size of this library, it's quite extensive, 96,000 square feet, and it cost roughly $450 million to build. Now, many of the exhibits are interactive and use artificial intelligence. Now, the library is expected to draw up to 200,000 visitors a year. And that library is working with Resource Environmental Solutions and North Dakota State University to help restore plants to the library that are indigenous to the area's outdoor spaces. And a walkway that connects all of the buildings of the library reaches now nearly 1 mile long. And that library sits on 93 acres in the North Dakota Badlands near the Medora Musical Amphitheater. Construction started in 2023. And the grand opening, of course, is set for this Saturday. Among the exhibit visitors, we'll see a painting done by Bismarck artist Jessica Wachter. She's not ready to reveal the entire painting yet, but she gave Jody Kurzman a bit of a sneak peek.
Right here. I still feel like it's a dream.
But this is real life for Bismarck artist Jessica Wachter. She is one of only a handful of artists selected to have their work in the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library.
I'm extremely honored that I was selected.
Wachter has spent more than a year working on this piece, titled Out of Darkness Comes Light. Before she could start painting, she had to study up on the 26th president.
Diving deep into being a TR fan.
Her painting is large, 10 feet by 9 feet. It is abstract and open to interpretation.
You'll see a lot of metaphors and parallels that I have connected back to the library and back to TR.
From the purple pops of color,
crocus flower, where it first comes up in the spring,
to this black X.
When he lost his wife, Alice, and his mom, Mitty, on the same day, he wrote an X and said the light had gone out of his life. That's what brought him to Medora, and that's what we are so grateful that where he came to do his healing, his soul searching and trying to get the light back in his life.
That light is represented in the painting, too.
There's a lot of darkness at the bottom of my painting. The light slowly comes back into his life and into anybody's life who's dealt with grief.
Creating this painting has also been healing for Wachter. She says it helped her process the loss of her grandmother.
She was such an advocate of me in the arts my whole life.
Wachter is excited to hang this painting in the Presidential Library, a symbol of her healing and of the magic of Medora.
It is truly a magical place.
In Mandan, I'm Jody Kurzman, reporting for your News Leader.
And the library has purchased Wachter's painting. It will be on display for at least the first year. Now, she says it could be part of a rotation of displays after that. Well, Teddy Roosevelt fans from around the world are making their way to Medora for the opening of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library this weekend. Many of them are stopping in Ekalaka, a tiny town in southeastern Montana. Roosevelt spent time in Carter County, Montana before he was president. He hunted in what is now Medicine Rocks State Park. Carter County Museum Executive Director Saber Moore now says many visitors to the museum are tracing what they call the TR Trail.
And when he came through this area, he talked about those big sandstone pillars all of the inscriptions that you find on them, as a beautiful place as he had ever seen.
And TR carved his initials into the rocks that has since now eroded it away, but the museum has a picture of his initials in the rock and has made that into postcards. President Trump's arrival in North Dakota is focused on the dedication of the new Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library. Now, the facility gives visitors an inside look at Roosevelt's life. It's in conjunction with America's 250 celebrations. KFYR's D.C. Bureau reporter Stephen Goen now has more on Roosevelt's legacy and impact.
Here in Washington, Theodore Roosevelt Island stands as a tribute to our 26th president. But this week, there's a new chapter being added to his legacy in North Dakota. For a president who left his stamp on America's foreign policy while also taking on some of the biggest corporate monopolies of his day, it's Theodore Roosevelt's conservation legacy that may be the most enduring. Roosevelt championing these lands and landmarks that still draw millions of visitors each year.
We're glad that he's conserved them. We're glad that his commitment to conservation has allowed us to walk along ancient redwoods. There's some pretty incredible sights.
As president, Roosevelt fought to protect about 230 million acres of public land, creating the U.S. Forest Service. He also established 18 national monuments and 5 national parks during his time in office.
I always thought he was kind of a heroic type person. He was kind of larger than life person in a way. Since I've been to so many national parks, I've always appreciated the things he did for the national parks.
And now there's a new place dedicated to Roosevelt's story. The Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library opens this week in Medora, North Dakota, where Roosevelt spent time ranching as a young man.
He kind of really demonstrates what American independence is all about and spirit. And he said if it hadn't been for his time in North Dakota, he'd never be president.
President Trump is scheduled to attend a dedication ceremony Wednesday, providing a first look at the library, which showcases Roosevelt's life and the work he did that continues to shape America more than a century later. In Washington, I'm Stephen Goen.
And the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library will be open to the public again on July 4th. Crews are still putting the finishing touches on the $450 million, 96,000 square foot building before the doors open to the public. We got a look inside.
Samantha Daniels is one of the first people to see the inside of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library.
It looks big and there's a lot of wood everywhere.
Samantha and her family got a VIP tour before opening day.
The architecture is astonishing because they made the roof so high and they made the roof have windows in it, and that's pretty cool.
I think it's pretty cool. It'll be a nice deal to Medora and it'll be interesting.
The library walks visitors like the Daniels family through the 26th president's life, starting with his childhood in New York and his time in North Dakota. Many of the exhibits are interactive and use artificial intelligence. Designers hope the experience keeps visitors exploring instead of reaching for their phones.
By creating these interactive experiences that feel like magic, they're going to encourage people to explore, they're going to encourage people to learn.
The building itself holds a certain wow factor, starting in the lobby.
It's probably the most stunning aspect of the building itself.
The walls are made from dirt brought in from around the region. Crews hand-stamped every inch of these 26-foot-high walls.
The whole process took about 3 months, and we didn't know what it would look like until we removed those forms.
Natural light pours through skylights across the building. Large windows frame the Badlands. Those views haven't changed much since TR first visited in the 1800s. Architects built the library into that same landscape. The gently sloping roof becomes a part of the landscape. It is covered in native grasses and plants. Visitors can walk the rooftop terrain and take in sweeping views of the Badlands.
Right down in the valley below is where Theodore Roosevelt got off the train for the very first time.
The library is expected to draw up to 200,000 visitors a year. And in this place that helped shape Roosevelt's life, his story will now be told in the very landscape he fell in love with more than a century ago. I'm Jody Kurzman, reporting for your news leader.
All right, as we get you a live look now, we're going to give you an idea of some of the participants that are on the tour of the library. There's our live look that we have got right now at the amphitheater, where the president will be speaking here in a few minutes. I'm sure he will have some lead up, as former Governor Burgum and Interior Secretary Doug Burgum will be speaking today. Other guests as well. But at the, we just had that package there of the library. A good segue, because the president will be touring that library with Secretary Doug Burgum. Robbie Loft, the executive director of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library, and some of the exhibits that they will be taking in. President Trump will be taking in the train exhibit, the journal exhibit of Theodore Roosevelt's, campfire exhibit, all presidential Theodore Roosevelt's exhibits as well, or rather I should say an AI presidential exhibit, and then the Man in the Arena speech exhibit. So those are some of what President Trump will see today as he takes a tour of the new Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library, which of course they will be at the ribbon cutting ceremony here momentarily. A bill signing event at the museum, that is slated for 1 o'clock. So we're right about that time, but of course everything is not on time with an event like this. Next on the event, the president will arrive at the museum and take a tour, as we mentioned, and then he will make his remarks at the amphitheater, which we are waiting for right about now, which they're saying could be a little bit off here. So we will take this live. Okay, there you go. We've got our live feed now. We've switched from the amphitheater, where President Trump will be here a little bit later on in the hour. Right now, he is taking his tour of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library. And these are, again, a live look inside the brand new library there in Medora. Time frame of this, as we have got it anyway, a likely bill signing event would be taking place around this time frame. So in the next few minutes, we'll see President Trump likely with a bill signing, and then a short tour of the venue itself, and then off to the amphitheater for those remarks. We will keep this live until, if we can find President Trump. And those do look like Secret Service men, so wherever they are, I'm sure the president is not too far behind.
Sunday at the Dickinson recycling lot, the gardeners were not alone.
Came yesterday to drop off my branches, and there was a line of cars facing the train tracks. I don't know, 8, 10 possibly. I don't know where they were from, many states.
People from all over came to see 2 of the 3 BNSF locomotives, painted to celebrate America's 250th. The third one is parked not far away from these 2. The patriotic colors stood out to Jackson Radzak and his family.
It's got white stars, red, white, and blue stripes. And then one of them says 1776, and then one of the other ones says 2026.
Each of the locomotives is marked with a number, the year our country was founded, the current year, and the years that have passed.
It's a really big deal.
And why is that?
Because we're celebrating 250 years of America.
Reportedly, President Trump will use one of them to roll into Medora to celebrate not only our country's 250 years of independence, but also the opening of President Theodore Roosevelt's library. That's exactly what Roosevelt did back in 1883.
I just heard it was a unique train design that BNSF has for President Trump's trip to the Presidential Library in Medora for the dedication.
Other visitors who stopped by aren't just seeing them as transportation.
It means freedom. A lot of people died for our freedom, but it means freedom.
Wayne Jordy is a proud Vietnam veteran.
Well, I think everybody should be a patriot. This country is fantastic.
They arrived in Dickinson on Saturday. BNSF has been showing them off in different parts of the country. Facebook users documented them rolling on the rails. It's a moment people won't soon forget as they capture this single and historic moment of our nation's history. In Dickinson, I'm Hannah Newrohr for your news leader.
All right, the three trains have traveled BNSF's 32,500-mile rail network for special events while joining the rest of the BNSF fleet to deliver freight across the nation. Well, this visit by President Trump is his first time returning to North Dakota since he was reelected in 2024. He previously visited the state once in September 2017 and twice in 2019. Of the 45 men who have served as president, 14 have traveled to North Dakota to speak to different communities. Probably one of Medora's most popular spots is the Chateau de Mores. Jody Kurzman got a sneak peek into a long-standing building. To get a peek into its history, we share with what you know. All right, just having a little bit of issues there in the back room. It's a long day for all of us folks, so please give us a little grace. We're on the air now. This is 3 hours. Okay, so you're ready with it, Brian? Go ahead.
Jody Kurzman at probably one of the most iconic spots in Medora. You might recognize this is the hunting room at the Chateau, and Keshna is with me. You're with the State Historical Society. Tell me your title here.
I am the site supervisor, so I get to oversee everything. I'm responsible for making sure the buildings are maintained, our 174 acres, all of that wonderful, wonderful stuff.
So I can say Chateau, easy for me to say, but I can never say the second part of that right because I am a North Dakotan.
Chateau de Mores.
Yes, listen to her. It's beautiful how you say it. Let's talk. Everybody knows this house. I think if you've been to Medora, you know about the chateau, but there's so much to this.
Yeah. Well, the house, the initial house, which we're actually in a separate room, was built in 1883. The room we're in was built 2 years later, so in 1885. When Medora, or the Marquesa de Mores, had come out to view the house, she noticed there really wasn't a place for preparing for their hunts, their excursions, and there wasn't a place for the guest luggage to be taken off the wagons out of the elements. And so she wanted a multi-purpose room, which is what this room became. And it did become other things over the years. At one point it was a garage. And now it's back to its original purpose.
When you walk around here, it's like you're stepping back in time.
Yes.
How important is it to preserve that, what it was like in the 1880s?
It's kind of a loaded question. Any historian, like what I am, will tell you that preservation and understanding of what it was like before helps us to progress into the future, because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can take what we've already had and improve on it, make it better. This particular house is a combination of the Wild West and the Victorian high society. So it itself is unique, even in the time period that it existed. But here you also get to see where, like, we have one of the very first modern American living rooms. Prior to this time period, the living room was used mainly for the poor. Medora and the Marquis, being from wealthy families, would have had drawing rooms and smoking rooms and music rooms. And here they really brought the family together into that one living room space. So having that shows where we've come from and how not new some of the ideas that we use now are.
I love that. Now, when we talk about the Marquis and Medora, they really weren't here an awfully long time, but boy, did they make a big impact on this area.
They certainly did. The Marquis originally came out in early 1883. His whole idea was to build a cattle business, a cattle empire. But unfortunately, it was towards the end of the cattle empires, and they stayed only 4 seasons. So 83, 84, 85, and 86. The winter of 86, 87 had a severe blizzard that had killed about 65% of all the beef cattle. And that included Roosevelt's cattle, Theodore Roosevelt. And a lot of ranchers just gave up. The Marquis and Medora kept the house, but they gave up the business because their main investor chose not to keep refinancing because they weren't making money at it during that time period.
When you think about planning a trip to Medora, there are certain things that we need to see the musical, we need to get some ice cream. Why should we build a visit to the chateau into our plans?
Why? Because if it was not for the Marquis de Mores and Medora, the city of Medora would not exist. They brought in people to work in the abattoir, which was their meatpacking plant. They brought people to work in the chateau itself. Almost everyone I talk to in town has a story about a relative that has worked at the chateau in some capacity, whether that is before it became a historical site or after. So it's a heritage for not only North Dakota, but for the people in North Dakota.
You're right, everybody does. My mother-in-law worked here way back in the day, and we won't get into that because I think they had a lot of fun working here. How much time do you need to allow to really get the experience?
Of course, anybody can go through it at any pace that they want, but I always say give it at least a half an hour minimum, because then you get to see every room and you get to start looking at everything. But if you really like to look at the details, to see the uniqueness that exists here, you want to give it an hour to an hour and a half, because there is so much to see, there's so much to read. About 85% of the artifacts in this house are original to the family. The building itself is around 90% original structure. And we are, of course, working to preserve that as we got it. And there were things that had to be fixed, and we still fix and repair. But to really be able to feel everything, you have to take your time.
Real quick, before we run out of time, your favorite part of the house?
My favorite part of the house, oh, I gotta think about that. It has to be the linen room.
Why the linen room?
Because of all the wine bottles. So there's a great story behind those wine bottles. I love these wine bottles. Back in the 1930s, the late 1930s, the Civilian Conservation Corps was brought out to do restoration of the chateau. And one of the things that they found on that side of the house was a wine cellar that had collapsed.
Oh.
So they started excavating and pulling everything out, and they were doing the restoration of the building. And when they were pulling the bottles out, majority of them were full. Somehow, miraculously, by the time they got to the State Historical Society, they weren't full anymore.
I wonder what happened there. That's a fun story.
I love it.
Thank you so much for making time for us. We appreciate it.
All right, now as we come back, we've got a live look. There is a look at the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library. I'm not quite sure what we're looking at there, to be honest with you. President Trump now taking a tour of the library. And he is along with Interior Secretary and former North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. Also, Robbie Loff, the executive director of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library, is escorting the president. Some of the exhibits that the president will be taking in, the train exhibit. We've also got the journal exhibit is on the itinerary for the president. The campfire exhibit, all sound very fascinating. The AI President Theodore Roosevelt exhibit, and the Man in the Arena speech exhibit. No telling on how long, of course, this tour will take with President Trump as he is being escorted around the library for the opening. On the list here, there is a signing event that is to take place today as well. As I look at the clock, that was to take place just about 15-20 minutes or so ago. We do have this live image that we are being fed right now to us from NBC. Now, again, I'm not exactly sure what I'm looking at there. A lemur? I'm not sure. But we will, in fact, go to the amphitheater. Is that what we're going to do, Brian, next? Or will we go ahead and take this shot? Okay. Well, earlier we told you about a farm family north of Minot preparing for President Trump's arrival. And Ryan Stevens now says he had an idea to cut the numbers 45 and 47 into his hay crop to commemorate Trump being the 45th and 47th president. He had hoped now the president would see if he flew into the Minot Air Force Base.
We'll probably won't ever get to meet him or anything, so we just wanted to show some respect to him, that we support him.
While the idea stemmed from Ryan, his dad, Lynn, did the cutting. Lynn says he had help from his granddaughter. He adds Farden Construction and Kyle Nelson help laser out the numbers for them.
How often does North Dakota get a president to come to the state? So I think this is the least we can do.
Lynn says it only took a few hours to carve the numbers. The Stevens plan to cut the field for hay once it grows back in. Well, from campaigns to commemorations, North Dakota has welcomed the Commander-in-Chief on many occasions. Joe Skrzyszewski brings us inside the history of the presidential visits to the Peace Garden State.
16 sitting presidents have visited our state at least once. The first one, Rutherford B. Hayes in 1878, 11 years before North Dakota became a state. Donald Trump's 2018 visit, the most recent. Theodore Roosevelt returning to North Dakota as president in 1903. Video archives of presidential visits from the State Historical Society go back to the 1950s, when Dwight Eisenhower dedicated the Garrison Dam. In 1960, JFK came to North Dakota to support Quentin Burdick's Senate campaign, pushing for better ag prices and rights for the family farm.
If Congressman Burdick is elected, that it would be at least an indication that in North Dakota the policies followed by Mr. Benson have been unpopular, and that the farmers in this state desire a change.
Flash forward to 1986. Ronald Reagan stumped for Mark Andrews' Senate re-election.
In Mark Andrews, North Dakota has a senator who knows what it's like to meet a payroll. He is not a lifetime bureaucrat who doesn't know the difference between a cow and a combine.
Like now, that visit coming amid turmoil overseas. Reagan meeting with Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev over Cold War tensions prior to visiting the Peace Garden State. His successor, George H.W. Bush, addressing the people of North Dakota on the steps of the Capitol in 1989, ahead of the state's centennial. Bush discussing how Teddy Roosevelt's time in the Peace Garden State molded him into a leader and a steward.
All right, there we go. We've got a live shot now of President Trump and
the President will be doing a recording.
Secretary Doug Burgum,
Sunday, you'll hear his voice.
with the third being, I'm guessing,
It is not the critic who
Executive
counts.
Director of...
Not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short, again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions? Who spends himself in a worthy cause? Who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement? And who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. President Trump is the man in the arena, and it's a thrill to have him here to help dedicate this presidential library today.
Well, thank you. It's really great being here. You've done a phenomenal job, and those words, I've heard them before many times, and nothing more beautiful, nothing more true. It's true. The man in the arena, or the woman in the arena, I guess we probably have to add on today. But it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be at this great museum, great library, great center, and it's a very special place. I think it's going to do very well. It's a part of the country that I love, and I think they love me because I have the all-time record in presidential voting, and that's an honor because they are the people that built America. So thank you very much, and we appreciate it, and we look forward to saying a few words later. We're going to be making a speech in a little while. And hopefully it will be representative of what they stand for out here and what Teddy stood for, because he stood for a lot. Thank you very much. Great job.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
This kind of ends the section on the presidents that he had. Now this is that third party level. I think it's a really meaningful moment.
Or farming.
All right, there you heard some remarks from President Trump on the Man in the Arena exhibit there at the new Roosevelt Museum that is opening. Some of the other exhibits that President Trump went through here, the train exhibit, the journal exhibit, the campfire exhibit, the AI President Theodore Roosevelt exhibit, and as you just saw, the Man in the Arena speech exhibit.